Hi everyone, joining us today for this month's People Swish session is none other than Maribel Colmenares. So the guiding force behind upGrad success is Director of Marketing and Partnerships, a leading powerhouse in integrated learning, upskilling, and career development in Asia. So with her keen expertise, Maribel plays a pivotal role in forging impactful partnerships, igniting sales and marketing endeavors, and outside of work she is also an accomplished author with four international best-selling titles to her name. So, welcome, Maribel. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. So, just to kick things off a little bit, could you tell us about yourself and the role you played at upGrad?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation and thank you so much for having me. Now, and also for the amazing introduction. Um, my role at upGrad has been I joined actually January, so it feels like a lot longer. We really in the midst of powering career success for professionals to be able to upskill, and we consider ourselves as a lifelong learning partner throughout their career. So either they just graduated, or they're in the workforce but they want to upskill themselves, or perhaps they're thinking of a career switch. That's where we play a pivotal role for them. And I think that everything we do out of grad is really with our learners at the core of it.
I see. Thank you so much, Maribel. And I mean, that's definitely a very like significant role that you guys are playing in like one's like career life, right? So and speaking of career, like your own career, basically spans like from sales, marketing, authorship, and now you're in educational technology. Like, so we're actually very curious, like what make you or what sparked your interest in joining upgrad?
I think that education has always been my passion. Like whenever I was choosing what to study, I remember really well, like looking at my peers and my friends, and some of them were like amazing artists and they already knew what they wanted to do, or they were great in math, or they were, they all knew. To me, it seems that everybody had it all figured out, but I was not certain what was I particularly good at, because I liked many things, but I didn't feel like, oh, Maribel is really good at this. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I am really curious. So I think it started from young. I remember sharing with my family, like, I like education because I think it's a very impactful role to play. And in Mexico, unfortunately, it's like not very well paid, or not very well remunerated. So I remember that the first time I said something like that, my family's like, are you sure? Like, how are you going to live? How are you going to make a living? And I was like, okay. So, actually, my career didn't started in education. It started in tourism. I studied in the US. I worked for hospitality and hotels for a while. And then I was, when I had to choose my bachelor's, I was still not very sure. I knew I liked traveling. I knew I liked languages. So I decided to do the best thing that I could, which was finding a job myself, because I had to pay for my own education as well
Mm-hmm.
as my trips. So then
Wow.
I found a job as an au pair in Norway because I wanted to learn French. Doesn't really make sense somehow, but in France they didn't pay as well. And I found a really amazing family in Norway that was half French, half Norwegian. So I went there, and like I was there learning French for 1 year, went back, and I think that my career has been always um, it has not been a linear trajectory. When I went
Mm.
back, I studied foreign trade and logistics. I worked in
Mm.
the automotive sector for a while. I
Wow.
was leading the logistics operation. Like we were importing a lot of machinery from Germany to Mexico, setting up a new plant, and that was really exciting, and I enjoyed it a lot. After that, I joined a different business. So I was working directly with the owner, helping him in business development. So my role was traveling along with it a lot within Mexico and meeting business partner, closing partnerships. So I think that's where the partnership path started, but it was still within logistics and business.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and I think after that, I got a scholarship to study it in Australia. And
Nice.
that's how I ended up in Singapore, because I met my now husband in in Australia, and my husband's Singaporean, hence I'm here. And somehow, long answer to your question, somehow education technology, but I've always been very keen on exploring how education has a huge impact in the development of professionals, and
Mm-mm,
also how it's not necessarily the only way. I think as an
mm-mm,
individual, we always have to make ourselves well-rounded, because to me I didn't start it in education. This is not what I studied. I didn't study marketing, but you pick up things along the lines and somehow you piece. It's like a puzzle, right? You put the pieces together, and
mm-mm.
then yeah, you make things
And
work. But
voila.
my passion is in partnerships and obviously marketing and education, because at the end of the day, it's not, marketing, you can market any product or any service, but it's really the impact to the
Mm-mm.
learners that motivates me to do what I do for upgrad every day.
That is so impressive, and you just have a very diverse background of everything. It's like, you have like a bit here and there, and then I think that's how you kind of mold yourself into who you are right now, right? And
But I
just
also felt very guilty for it for very long, because I saw many people being specialists, and
yeah.
I was like, okay, when I came to Singapore, I was in the petrochemical sector when I started because of my languages, right? Because everybody
Mm,
told me, oh, it's really hard to find a job. And then I applied to something that require like my language skills. So, from hospitality to logistics, then I ended up in petrochemicals and sales and now in education. But I think that right now I really enjoy that type of background, because when I am having conversations with people, I can somehow relate to the different
exactly.
things that they do. And I keep
Exactly.
on learning every day and challenging myself every day to get better, because I also know that I might be behind in terms of marketing and the new developments that are out there. So we always have to keep on learning every day. That's like no longer you study and then that's enough, right? Like it's a
Exactly.
daily task.
Exactly. And it's always like, learning doesn't stop when you're just young. No, it's like a continuous kind of thing. And there's always something new to pick up and to learn, right? And to always upgrade.
Thank you for the brand positioning there, but
That's hence the reason why you guys use the word upgrade for your company's name, right?
absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons. Yes, our
Yeah.
co-founders were really visionaries.
Great pick for the name. But I'm just also curious, like, you mentioned you were in Norway and then you're in Australia, and then basically, of course, your background is you're from Mexico and now you're in Singapore. How many languages can you speak actually?
um, I can fluently speak Spanish, French, Portuguese, although French and Portuguese, I haven't been using them as much. So I don't
Mm,
know if they're still as fresh as I wish, but I know they can come back. I used to use them a lot here recently. I haven't had the chance. But yeah, I can speak those. I understand a little bit Malay, because I'm married to a Singaporean Malay. And my kids are studying Chinese in school. So when the tutor comes at home, I try to pick it up. Apparently, I do it wrongly because my daughter keeps on correcting my pronunciation. But I think that the most important thing is languages are such a key thing to connect and deeply understand others. And I
mm,
think that even if I mispronounce, the fact that at least I try sometimes is appreciated by some
exactly.
people here in Singapore. So I do my best to be respectful and pronounce as well as I can.
The effort is the effort that matters. So, it's really fantastic. That's amazing, man. You guys you had like a range of languages that you can actually talk about and also like practice with others also. Yeah, so maybe I can probably ask you a few questions about upgrad. So far upgrad has made an immense impact on online learning, right? Especially in Asia. So in your view, what actually make like upgrad stand out among other online education platforms?
I think that I believe that whatever we're doing obviously works, but it was pivoted because of COVID. Like online education, obviously technology has been a great enabler
Mm,
worldwide. of education, and it's aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals number 4 of allowing accessible, affordable education for everyone, portable as well. And I think that upGrad is doing this, and I highly applaud it, because this is how we can all get better and uplift society globally. But we started in 2015 in India, and in August 2021, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's when we became a unicorn. And
Oh.
this exponential growth was supported by the pandemic, because it was in a time when even if people wanted to go to universities and do face-to-face studies, they couldn't, because everybody was at home. And I think that we
Mm-mm.
were ahead of our time because we were ready for it, while many players were figuring out how to make sure that they could still function and work and delivering. I know in Mexico, like at least for my brother and my parents, it wasn't easy, right? Like trying to understand how to even simple things like scan or upload documents, like they were not used to it. I mean, more tech savvy countries, perhaps they were more prepared. It depends, right? Some schools in Mexico were, but not everywhere. And the fact that we were ready to say, okay, your education is not going to be disturbed. You can continue your progress. And even if you're working, you don't have to stop earning an income for yourself and your family, but you can still upgrade yourself with upgrad. Then it was really, really good timing, and it propelled upgrad to grow, obviously, as it has grown, and we continue to work towards this growth. I think that for upgrad is upgrad India, and then we have upgrad International, which is where I sit. So upgrad
Mm-mm.
International is basically everything that's outside of India.
Mm-mm.
Currently, upgrad, we're in the US, Canada, Dubai, Vietnam, Singapore, and in fact, we're global. We're even in Africa, because we have students from everywhere. Despite if we don't have like offices there, we just have where I mentioned. But I think that the fact that we see learners that are enthusiastic and that get the results, right? Because it's not only learning, then what? Like, is it just a title, or does it actually make an impact? We are
Exactly.
really proud to say that we have really high completion rates, because
Mm.
sometimes when it's online learning, like, who is accountable for your progress, right? So we have
Correct.
developed a very comprehensive platform that shows learners, for example, within your cohort,
Mm-mm.
where are you? Like, are
Mm.
your peers already ahead of you, or are you ahead? Then what you should do to make sure that you finish in time and that you finish. So we have also one-on-one coaching. We have buddies that support our learners, so that like they are always on top of things, make sure they submit their assignments, make sure they complete. They also encourage them, because at times it gets tough. I mean, we have families, we have work, we have so many things going on in our lives, right? So you're adding one extra thing, but then it's for a reason, right? So some of our learners have done like amazing things already, and we're super proud of them. We have a very big learning community in our doctorate program. So there
Mm.
are normally like PhDs and DBAs. DBAs is doctorate in business administration, is more practical compared to a PhD. We
Mm.
specialize in DBA, so it allows professionals to do not just research, but also things that are practical with hands-on case studies that can really connect and implement whatever it is that the problem that they're trying to solve within their field, right? And
Mm-mm.
yeah, so we see like a very vibrant and happy community of learners there. We also recently got approved our MBA in Singapore for Deakin University. So for upGrad, we partner with more than 300 universities globally. And I think that just bringing this opportunity for individuals, regardless of location, to study and have, like classmates from all over the world, it really adds up to not just studying something, but also being a global citizen. And sometimes people ask us like, okay, but the whole point of studies is the network, right? Because you go to university, you build your network, you have your friends, and perhaps that helps you in life. No, actually not perhaps, it does help you in life, right?
Yes.
So, which is why for upGrad, we're really, really serious about not just of online, but also creating offline opportunities for our learners to connect and meet face to face, and who knows, meet their next colleague or boss or have the next promotion opportunity out there. And this, we have we made an event with you
Yeah.
utilizing Swish as a platform. We have our upgrad community members there, and we
Yes.
were, in the offices at Spectrum in March 18th, I believe, so if my memory
Nice.
serves me right.
Nice.
Fly. We had
Yes.
another event recently as well, on the 12th of August, and we're constantly trying to have opportunities for learners to meet, not only in Singapore, but also in the region. So if our student is in Dubai where we're having a mixer, or they want to come to the mixer in Dubai or the
Mhm.
UK or wherever it's happening, they're more than welcome.
Mhm.
We push this to our database, obviously, for them to be aware of. On top
Mhm.
of the face-to-face events that we do globally, we also have master classes, which are different opportunities for them to come and learn about the program or come and learn about something new, completely free of charge, so that
Mhm.
like we can add value to them on top of their usual curriculum.
Exactly. And I think that's amazing because like it's globally and everyone have access to it. And you guys make it very, I mean, that's the whole point, right? Guys make it accessible for everyone to just like, upgrade themselves. And also, yeah, and then also the importance of like having physical events also. I mean, like what you mentioned, that it's mostly for networking, right? So it's always like more personal. It's like it's more impactful when you meet someone, like in person, as compared to like virtually.
Absolutely. And I think that seeing our learners and their journey and how they have advanced is also really rewarding. Like sometimes I bumped into them in events, and sometimes we do testimonials for them to showcase them, to give them more visibility so that people know, what's going on in their careers, what steps are they taking to improve themselves. So
Mhm.
I think that so far we're really, really happy and grateful that they allow us to be a part of their journey.
Exactly, and that's amazing. And like for yourself also, like you're also known for like forging partnerships, right? Perhaps maybe you can actually share with us a little bit about how these collaborations enhance the value that upgrad provides, and how do these learners tend to gain from these partnerships.
Absolutely. I think that partnerships is my favorite thing about my job. I really enjoy partnerships and finding different ways of creating win-win opportunities for different organizations to come together and ultimately have an impact on their communities, our learners, and everybody, right? So we recently closed one with DBS. So now people within the DBS Payla app can have access to our courses with a discount. That way we
Wow.
benefit DBS and their community, which is also really big, to be able to upgrade and upskill themselves. In fact, they're having a lifelong learning festival until November. So we're really happy to be part of it and to offer, some sort of promotions that can hopefully help those learners that are interested in taking the next step to say, okay, now is the time, and make it happen. So this is one of them. We have one around the corner that I'm really, really excited about. So we're just in the midst of finalizing everything, and we're going to be working with a very well-known content creator. I think you might know of him. And I
Mhm.
think that the whole point, I mean, AI is the talk of the town, right? But
Exactly.
the whole point of AI, and I have a lot of conversations for the master classes with AI experts and the concerns around AI. And I think that the whole point is really like, who fits the AI, right? It's our child. So we need to feed them with the right stuff, responsible, but also learn how to empower ourselves so that we can make our days more productive and be able to focus more on the strategy part of the business to ultimately offer more value to our learners, right? Or to the partners that we're working with. So yeah, we're working on several ones, but I can speak about those two. And if anybody listening to this, you think of an idea of how to partner with upgrad, we're always more than happy to explore opportunities, as long as it's something that can add value to our learners and to your community. We're up for a discussion.
Definitely, and for sure, like us so Swish, we will definitely, I mean, this is something that also that we're pretty aligned with. It's all about continuous learning. So I think that is really spot on. So yeah, we'll have that in another conversation then.
Yes, I have been inviting you for our master classes. So you're still in our guest list. Whenever you want, please be my guest.
I will put aside some time, to attend that master class. And thank you so much for the invite. But yes,
My
you were saying that DBS is having like a lifelong learning festival, right? Will that be a public event, or if it's or is it a private event?
So it's public, but it's not an event. It's basically a push within their apps, their websites, and their social media handles where they are um, promoting different education partners through which everybody that has an account with DBS can
I see.
upskill themselves. So it's not only upgrad, it's also other providers. And I really
Mm.
believe that, I mean, it's all about what the learner needs, right? If they need what we offer and if that's what they're looking for, we're here for them. If not, then the whole point is go and upskill yourself because the world is constantly changing and we all needed to do it daily.
Exactly. It's a need, and not really. It's a must.
Course, yes. To
Yes.
stay on top of the game and to, make sure that we know how to be better at our work and how to better support our teams and our company through new technologies and integrations. I think that whatever helps work, increase productivity and work smarter, I'm all up for it.
And I mean, like, I'm sure upgrad is pretty much in touch with trends, right? So speaking of which, um upgrad industry relevant programs are actually quite ahead. So how does your team ensure that they are in tune with the changing trends and needs of various industries, like for example
Yeah.
like AI and stuff? Yeah.
This is a very good question because we are online, right? So how do
Mm.
we make sure that our content is constantly relevant? Because once you record it, I mean, things change rapidly, right? So this is very important, and we have big program team that is constantly reviewing and getting subject matter experts that are always, in touch with the latest updates. But we also, I mean, I think that a key part here is like, although we have our own programs, we also partner with universities. So
Mm.
universities are also on top of their game to make sure that whoever comes to them is receiving the best of the best education. Like, for example, as I mentioned, we're recently because in Singapore, we recently launched upGrad Institute, which is a
Mm.
PEI, so it's a private education institution that is a 4-year edu trusted, and
Mm.
we're always thinking how to make things um, better for our learners here. So we have enrolled some programs through CPE so that learners can also know that whatever programs we're offering, are up to the standards of the Singapore government, right? So Dickens University MBA has been approved by CPE and is now on our upgrad institute. And we collaborate very closely with the university. We're going to be having a masterclass coming up soon where people from the MBA program comes and talks about, what is it that people can expect from taking an MBA from Dickens, which is a top 1% university globally,
Mm.
top
Mm.
20 university for online MBAs. Like it's also has 2 big accreditations. It's WAS accredited, which means that if students or learners are applying for a visa, they can also utilize this. So I think that the whole point is really leveraging on our partnerships with the different universities that we work with to ensure that they can leverage on our technology and
Mm.
on the team that is supporting the learners, and they can continue to provide the best learning experience for their students. So by studying with, for example, Dickens Power by upGrad Institute, they get alumni status, which means that it's as if you were going to campus. You get
Oh,
alumni
nice.
status, and you get the same degree as students that study face to face if you
Oh,
study from Dickens directly. We just
that's amazing.
facilitate the whole process.
Exactly, and that's amazing. And I'm sure it's like, it's also, what do you call it? It's a popular approach also for people to, like, to do their, I mean, to do their studies, right? So instead of like going to a uni like physically, they can just attend virtually.
Yes, and it levels the ground because if you think about it, and I can speak for that myself, like I did study in Australia and it was tough as a Mexican when I reached Australia, I mean, I pay for my studies, but then there you also have to pay for the cost of living and transportation and accommodation, you know, like it's not cheap. I had to work a lot. So while I was doing my MBA, I had so many jobs. I was working at Subway, I was working at the university, you know, like it's not easy. So if all of a sudden you have access to the same degree from this Australian or anywhere in the world university, but then you don't have to worry about that extra cost, and you're like me who didn't really have big pockets or a family that pay for your studies, then it really helps. It makes a difference, you know. It opened the field of opportunities to those people that could not access or were not as crazy as me to just throw myself out there and then juggle all of it at one go, you know. So I
Yeah,
think it's
and
very
it,
valuable.
and it allows you to focus also, like which is mainly on studying.
Which is important,
Exactly.
because I remember I had to wake up like at 4 a.m., sometimes at 3 a.m. to be able to submit my assessments, because you know I would go to classes and after that I would go to work, and then maybe that was not enough because I still needed to top up for whatever it is that I need. I didn't even went out that much, you know, when I was in Australia. So sometimes our classmates are like, oh, we really miss those days. I'm like, I don't miss those days. I wish I had lived it, just being able to focus on my studies and maybe like enjoy a bit more. I don't
Mm-mm.
regret it. Obviously, it really helped me to who I am, and I'm really happy that I did it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have met my husband. I would not be in Singapore
Yeah,
also. But,
exactly.
but I think that if people have the opportunity to just focus on their studies, and even if they're working, you know, they don't have to give up that income for their family. It just helps.
That is so true. You actually make a very, very important point. And I think that's always the roadblock, right? Like, you always have other commitments and then that kind of like affects like your decision to continue your studies, right?
Exactly. And I mean, that really makes a difference in climbing the corporate ladder if this is something that you're aiming for. So, you know, many times when we're hiring or when other companies are hiring, they do search for somebody with an MBA. And if
Mm-hmm.
you want to be in academia or if you want to publish any research, you need a doctorate, right? So I think that being able to offer these to people that does not want to take a career break or that does not have the pocket to actually go overseas and take thousands of jobs while you study, then it's really very valuable. And I'm very proud of what upgrad is doing. We recently also, because we have been very focused on B2C, but
Mm-mm.
obviously B2B is a big part of our value proposition as well. So
Mm-mm.
upgrad recently acquired Udacity to power our B2B site so that we
Mm-mm.
can better support corporations that want to upskill their employees. Currently,
Mm-mm.
we're also doing it. We're doing it with our MBAs, DBAs. There are some corporates that want to sponsor their leaders to upgrade themselves. But
Mm-mm.
I think that having more options for them is something that we're always aiming for.
Mm-mm. All right, thank you so much, Maribel. And I think those will be very, very helpful for for people who are keen to actually like to take up courses with upgrad. And speaking about continuous learning, right? This is a topic. I mean, for sure, it's very, very close to your heart. Based on what you actually shared earlier on, like how would you actually define continuous learning, and what do you think is actually becoming so important in today's professional world?
I think that in the past, continuous learning was something that you could do. You could see like maybe our parents or even, you know, our grandparents, they studied one thing, they work in the same company maybe for years, and that was sufficient. Perhaps they read books, but it was not as important as it is today. Today, just look at the rate in which things are changing. If you don't change with it, you stay behind. And it's not just in terms of the demands of a workplace or your bosses, but actually, you know, it's things that are changing with the world, right? So if you want to be able to be more productive and up your game, I think that it's really important. Also, a lot of new tools are out there to support, um, for example, data-driven decisions. In the
Mm-mm.
past, you had assumptions, hypotheses, you test them, and if not, iterate. But I think that now the fact that there are a lot of data tools that allow you to really know and make informed decisions is really powerful. But if you have a lot of tools and you don't really know how to use them or how to really analyze the data properly to make those decisions is really tough. And
Exactly.
then because of that, it's not just, one skill that you need to bring into the table, right? It's like so many others. It's, yes, marketing, but also data analytics. It's just so many new things that you have to go through even to be able to manage a team, right? Because how are you supposed to tell your team what you want them to do if you
Exactly.
cannot show them, right?
Yeah.
So I think that you need to know how to get things done so that you can be a better leader as well.
And gone are the days of like just focusing on one skill and just like focusing on that. I mean, it's like what you say, for example, like you may be in doing marketing, but you're actually managing a team, so you need like leadership skills to actually allow you to do that, right? So those kind of things.
Absolutely. And many a times I see that, or I hear a lot that organizations push, not push, but like promote people to leaderships or directorship positions, but they don't really give training. So,
Mm,
sometimes, and that's what we're here for, right? Because how to empower high potential leaders to really be not just bosses that people
yeah.
have to follow their orders, but really leaders that people can look up to and hopefully learn from as well. And if you
Mm-mm.
want people to learn from you, you really need to know how to do things.
Exactly, you gotta practice what you preach, right? Pretty much.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I'm sure upgrad has a vibrant culture of like continuous learning, both for learners and also for your own team. Like perhaps maybe you can actually share some of your experiences or initiatives that actually help foster this culture.
I think that having very open type of leadership really helps. Being
Mm-mm.
able to openly discuss what works, what doesn't work, what we want changed is
Mm-mm.
very important,
Mm-mm.
especially when you're growing internationally, because things that might work, for example, for India, might annoy our partners or even people that we work in Singapore. And we
Mm,
need to adapt and make sure that we evolve and we can take care of things also here in our Singapore office so that we can make things smoother for everyone, not just for ourselves, but for everyone, right? And I think
mm,
that this is something that we're constantly learning and constantly implementing. Yeah, I remember when I joined, there were a lot of things that we had to change and follow and, iterate because obviously when a business starts in one country, the SOPs are created for that country and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you go international, you need to make sure that the SOPs are created appropriately, right? And I'm sure that is not just the case for upGrad, it's for a lot of organizations. When you go globally, you need to make sure that whatever you have created stays relevant and
mm,
is appropriate for the different markets that you are into. So I think that this is constantly something that we're keen on revising, improving, and learning from.
mm. And that's good. It's all, I think basically it's just all about adjusting and adapting, right?
And having an open leadership, because your question was how do you make sure that leaders actually can, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the question was how do you make sure that the leaders foster this type of culture, right? And I think that when you have open leadership that is ready to listen, there's
Mm-mm.
no right or wrong, but sometimes you do things that are wrong, but then you learn from them. But if you're
Exactly.
scared to make mistakes
How you
because be reprimanded, you might
yeah.
not communicate what needs to be done. So I think
Exactly.
that having leaders that are open to feedback and might be willing to listen and say, okay, yeah, I think this makes sense. Okay, maybe not this, but why don't we look at it? Like just being able to have open ears and allow people to share their ideas, because sometimes you might think a strategy is amazing, but actually when you implement it, it completely does not make sense. But if your people in the ground is not able to share with you and challenge you, how would
Mm,
you know, right? So I think that that's like constant feedback and open communication that really helps both employees and leaders do better together.
exactly. And I'm so aligned with you on that. Like, I think gone are the days that only leaders are correct. But you must trust your team that, okay, like what you say, people on the ground, they will know better because they are the one doing the work. They are the one like facing the music every day. And I think this feedback will be definitely be priceless and also be very like crucial for the business, right? Because they are the ones that facing everything. And in order for a business to run like successfully, like what you say, like the leaders should be able to be receptive to feedback such as this. Yeah, which is
Absolutely.
so true.
And
Yeah,
people should feel safe. So I think that having a culture where people feel safe to share without
exactly.
being penalized or judged for it, it really helps a lot.
For sure, for sure. Totally align and totally agree with you on that. And also like coaches and mentors, right? They seem to play a very critical role at upgrad. So how do they actually encourage this habit of continuous learning? Like what's the process like for selecting these mentors?
I think that for us, something that is at the heart of what we do at upgrad is that you have to walk the talk, you know?
Mm,
So if we have a mentor for somebody that's learning, I don't know, logistics. So
mm,
ideally you would have a mentor that is very capable of teaching you what you should be looking out for, or maybe like rephrase the framework that you're working on so that you can better align your dissertation or your strategy for your workplace. I think it's very crucial. So having subject matter experts within our pool of mentors and coaches is very valuable, because then it's no longer somebody that is just there to say, okay, I have you submitted your assignment, but actually is able to help you think about the questions that perhaps you have not thought on your own, and
mm,
then show you ways or different ways in which things can be done, or sharing with you approaches,
mm,
like that are very valuable, but coming from experience and not just a textbook, that makes a difference.
all right, thank you so much for that, Maribel. Okay. So people often like encounter hurdles, right, when they try to incorporate continuous learning into their lives. From your perspective at upgrad, what are some challenges and how do you address them?
I mean, I think that the biggest challenges is always ourselves, right?
Mm-mm.
Getting ourselves to decide on doing something is the first step to everything. And then
Correct.
secondly, then, like if you have decided, then go through it and
Mm-mm.
just follow through. That
Mm.
sounds very simple, but in reality, I mean, just think about everything we do, right? You decide to go to the gym, you pay the membership, and how many times do we actually show up to the gym? Because
Mm.
consistency is the key to everything, right?
Mm-mm.
Being the gym, being learning, being whatever it is that we decide to do. So if you want to up your skills, the first hurdle is make that decision. Decide
Mm.
that you really want to up your game, and then do what you have to do for it, depending on what is it that your goals are, right? Say for example, you want to move from a manager to a leader, and you know that perhaps increasing your chances for that, an MBA will help, right? And you've been thinking about it, but then there's never enough time, and the truth is there will never be enough time. You have to make the time for it. It's true, that's the toughest part, because
It is.
I mean, we're busy, we're tired. If you have children, then there's children that you have to attend to. Like, you need to make the time, and you need to commit, not to anybody else, but to yourself. And then once you commit to yourself and you make the decision, you follow through. And I think that there is just really like staying true to what you have decided is also really challenging, right? Because halfway through, if you have an assignment, but it's like, I don't know, your wife's birthday or your mom's birthday, and then there's commitments. And what are you going to do to make that happen? As I said, like, are you going to wake up at 4 a.m. to make sure that you submit your assignments? Are you going to
Mm.
make sure that you block 2 hours during the weekend where you say, okay, you know what? Like, I I'm not going to be available this time. I'm going to miss maybe some birthday parties here and there. I'm not going to be watching Netflix, because it sounds silly, but it's really the daily small decisions that add up, right? Because if
Yes.
you try to upskill yourself, like, you can either use your downtime to educate yourself or to
Mm-mm.
entertain yourself, right?
Mm.
So if it's a choice and you're really serious about it, there's always ways to do it. It's just
Is it?
You put your head to it. And I would say that that's why for upgrad, we're really big in bodies, study bodies that are there to encourage you and to say, okay,
Mm-mm.
your submission is coming up. Make sure you save time in your calendar. Don't leave it till the last minute. So it's easier on you, especially if you work. And like having these reminders is like, okay, like this encouragement. And sometimes, yes, learners come to us and say, oh my God, it's really challenging. I don't know if I can. And we really, like, our coaches and our mentors and the bodies really have to act like motivators, because we know
Mm-mm.
it's tough, but we remind them, what is it that, why did you choose to take this degree to begin with? Just have
Mm-mm.
that in. Okay, just think that maybe you have, I don't know, 3 more months, 1 more year to go, and then
Mm-mm.
you can be very serious and apply for that promotion, or get the job that you really want to, or define life as your own terms. If you want to be an entrepreneur, is this really what you want? Because
Mm-mm.
having the end goal always helps, but
Exactly.
if you don't have clarity on what you want, there's no amount of support that can bring you there. You have to have it within.
Exactly. And I think that's a super super golden advice, and also like tip. It's always starts with ourselves. I think that's super important to know. I mean, like, if it's not for you, then who else, right? And you're not doing this at the end. It's not doing for anyone else. It's really just for yourself. And just stay focused, right? That's the whole point. Stay focused to your objective and your goal, and just do not deter. I mean, do not like be affected by any kind of like distractions and stuff, and just stay focused.
And be willing to commit, because
Mm,
we sometimes dismiss the importance of consistency, right? If you're constant every day 1 hour, obviously you won't see anything happening in 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, but at the end of it, there is a big difference, right? And it
exactly.
only happens if you're willing to put in the work every day, or every weekend, or whatever it is that you decide to make that space for yourself.
Mm-mm. That's true. And I think that is something like I think most of us would probably face, like being tired, choosing your battles, right? In a way, it's like it's always a challenge. And I think that applies to me also, because like as a working mother, and like always have this thing like, oh, I'm just so tired from the whole day, and I got my kid, and it's like I think it's really just lies down on what you really want, and just focus for that time being, and just get over it and get it done and move on to the next stage, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that as individuals, I mean, we're in this life to progress and improve ourselves constantly in all the ways, not just in career, right? Like
Yeah.
personally, health wise, spiritually, if you will, like it is
Mm.
our commitment to hopefully like progress to how we came to how we live, right? Because it's a short ride. So it's only up to us.
Exactly, and that's pretty deep, but it's so so true. And I've enjoyed our chat so far, and just to share with you, like we are nearing the end of the chat. Perhaps any piece of advice would you share with our listeners about the importance of continuous learning for their careers, and also personal growth?
I think that continuous learning in our careers, it's our responsibility. We can no longer leave it to our employers to provide training for us.
Mm,
Obviously, if they do, we're very appreciative. I think that talents nowadays demand more for organizations. And
mm,
at the same time, organizations need to take care of their people, because there's a lot of quiet quitting conversations going around. And I think when you take care of your people will take care of the business, right?
for sure.
So this is a must, but it should not be an expectation from individuals, because you cannot leave your career in the hands of your employer or your spouse or anybody else. It's up to us. So
Exactly.
just decide what you want to become better at every day. It doesn't even have to be taking a big course. It has to, like, for example, I don't know, I want to learn how to better utilize AI to improve my productivity today. Then it's up to me to book my calendar maybe outside of working hours, because sometimes within working hours there's not enough time. But I know that investing that 1 hour, 2 hours, it will actually help me down the road in my role, right?
Mm-mm,
But it's really like a personal responsibility and also an inner work, because you need to know what you want, right? Like, what do you want to become better at? What do you
mm-mm,
want to improve your skills at? Nobody else can tell you. You know, I think we all know where we're lacking and what we want to become better at. And based
mm-mm.
on that, aim to get a little bit better every day. And then someday you will realize, oh, wow, like perhaps you hopefully get really good at it. We all suck when we start. I mean, I think that's the point. Don't be scared to fail. Don't be scared to suck. Like when you start something, you will suck. And then maybe
Exactly.
the first, the second, the third time, you suck a little less. And then one day you realize, oh wow, actually I can get this done, right? But
Correct.
don't be afraid to fail. That would be the main advice. Fail,
And
fail fast, learn fast.
yes, exactly. That is so true. And there's nothing wrong with failing. There's no, absolutely nothing wrong with failing. It's, I think it's needed for you to progress to the next step.
Absolutely. I think that if for myself, I always think if I'm not failing enough, I'm not doing a good job because I'm not trying enough. you
Correct.
know I always, obviously I don't want to fail, but the truth is at times, not everything can be a success. It just means
Exactly.
that if I am not making mistakes, I am not learning, right?
Exactly.
Try to do less mistakes every day, but don't be afraid to make mistakes. Make them
Exactly.
fast, learn, move on, get better, and yeah, just keep it up.
That's amazing advice. Really, really amazing advice. And yeah, before we actually part ways, like, perhaps you actually would like to share any like exciting initiatives or programs at upgrad that you'd like to share with our listeners.
Wow, I think that what we really feel excited about. I mean, there's many things to be excited about at upgrad. I believe that things change and progress daily. But personally, what I feel very excited about is to see Singapore community growing. Obviously, because I'm based here, but I think that we have set the upgrad institute finally, which has been long in the planning. So please make sure to follow us in all our social media handles. We're upgrad education, upgrad institute. And I think that what I'm very proud of is to see like more and more programs being approved and available for the community in APAC. um, so because that's our baby, that's why we work day in and day out, right? So I would say that's what keeps me personally like more exciting, to see the Singapore and APAC region grow constantly. But also obviously our international business, because I am I take care of it. But it's just that I see the impact with our
More.
region. So I think that that's why it's more special to me, because there's faces to it.
Exactly. Exactly. And thank you so much for that. And I think for those who are actually like inspired by Maribel's advice and today's discussion, and for those who are actually eager to start their own continuous learning journey, maybe perhaps can actually let us know how can they begin, or any pro tips for anyone thinking about joining a course at upgrad.
Yeah, so I think that since we're having this discussion, I'm more than happy to provide with a special discount to all the Swish and Golden Equator community if they're keen. So just mention that you watch this session with Sophie and myself, and then I'll make sure that you get a special discount for on any of the courses that you're keen into taking. So just reach out to me or reach out at somebody within our team, and let them know that you watch this session, that you're keen on learning, and that you want a discount. Because Maribel said that you could get one.
Money
You can go
discount.
with yeah, yeah, yeah. And if they say, oh, we're not aware or whatever, they should be, because I'll share. But if not, just come to me and I'll give you a code. So yes, just don't
Yay!
hesitate. Make sure that either with upgrad or wherever it is that you decide to upskill yourself, you continue learning.
Amazing. Thank you so much, and gracias, Maribel, for the session.
Thank you
We
so much, Sophie, for the invitation.
It is my honor and my pleasure to have you with us. And really, thank you so much for your time and effort to to just like take off some time from your busy schedule. And if there's anything else, like we'll be in touch also again.
Yes, absolutely. We love Swish community, and I'll be asking you to post more of our events there.
Thank you and speak soon.